Namaste. Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Tacchayo Mahe Gatoy Yajnaya Gatoy Yajnapataye Daivi Swastirastu Naha Swastirmanushebyah Urdhvanjigatu Bheshajam Shanno Astu Dvipade Shanchatushpade Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste everybody. Thank you for joining. So from today onwards, we are trying to have some discussions which can be a little beyond the teacher training, and for all the yoga practitioners and yoga seekers, I hope this kind of discussions would help. And when I was asking many about our students, what are the major subjects that we should look at, one that repeatedly came in was about the mantras. So let's discuss. Specifically, we are keeping it very, very simple to understand the major concepts about the mantras. What is a mantra? What is the significance? And how should we look at all these mantras? So this is basically from a yoga practitioner, yoga teacher's guide to the mantras. First of all, what is a mantra and what is not a mantra? Right? So generally, if you observe, that traditional definition of mantra is mananat trayate iti mantraha. Mananat trayate iti mantraha. This is the traditional definition of mantra. Mananat. There are three major practices in yoga. This is highly emphasized. That is Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasana. Generally, in the traditional practice of yoga, not just asana practice, in the entire journey, the first one is always in spirituality, it is to hear, which includes reading also. Hearing or taking from external sources, taking the knowledge inside, that is Shravana, listening. Okay. The second one is Manana, which means internalizing what we have received from external sources. The third one is Nididhyasana. So what is internalized, that comes in the practice in our day-to-day life. Now here, Manana is internalizing everything, something that is internalized, that helps you, that protects you, that transforms you. If that happens, that is a mantra. Even though a lot of other perspectives, practices have this ability, there is nothing that is very closer to the ability that mantra has. Now, major definition is mananat trayate iti mantra. Something that is internalized, can transform your life, is mantra. But this definition may not give you a complete understanding of what actually can be defined as a mantra. Because in some teacher training courses, I heard or I was asked, so to say, that whether Ramacharita is a mantra, or a Ramayana is a mantra, or a Gita is a mantra. Okay. So all of these are not mantras. Mantra, for something to become a mantra, there are two major aspects. First one, mantra is a sound energy. Of course, every sound itself is an energy, but something that is not composed by a human being, that is actually mantra. So, what is a mantra? Something that is apaurusheya. Even though for those who have studied a little more into all the darshanas, for you to say this is accepted by only Sankhya, Yoga, and Vedanta and Purvamimamsa Darshanas. Okay, but majorly the four major darshanas have accepted this Apaurusheya, something that is not composed by any human being, that is a mantra. Now, the moment I say this, in your logical mind, it must be thinking something that is not composed by any human being, how can that even exist? Right? Something composed, only because it is composed, it exists. For example, that's why I say Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavad Gita or Gita is not a mantra because it is composed by Maharshi Vyasa. Right? It is written or composed in any form. It's a human mind composition. That's why it is not a mantra because it is composed. Patanjali's Yoga Sutra is not a mantra because it is composed. Now, the moment it is coming out from a human mind, there is a limitation. It can be 99% true towards the truth of the nature. It cannot be 100% just only because it is composed by a human being. Which means you have to give me a little bit of attention here. Let's say I have the phone here, right? So the moment I say this is a phone, or I show you this, there are two major aspects that come to your mind. That is, the moment you see an object, this object has a name, which mostly many people have used that name, in English, that's how it works. Also, it has a form. The name in Sanskrit it is called Nama, and form, that is Rupa. When you have a name and form put together, only we get the knowledge. If there is no name and no form, you will never get a knowledge about anything when we are in the normal layer of our existence. Everything has to have a name and form, right? So that's why this is an easy example to take from the concept of space. The moment you say there is a name that we call space, but there is no form, right? So that's why the moment we look at the space, we just don't know how to conceive it, how to even capture, how to process that knowledge of space. Mind always goes with duality. When there is Nama and Rupa, when there is right and left, when there is up and down, when there is a duality, mind functions. When you are trying to go beyond the duality, mind cannot function. Yoga has this ability to take you to the state where there is no duality exists. It is a complete non-dual existence. In a way, some yogis explain, some yoga texts also explain that at a stage, yogi becomes like, his mind becomes almost like a mirror. It just reflects whatever that is captured, not processing it. When it is reflecting, it is going beyond the duality of the life. It is just reflecting as it is. In that state, here is the main point. In that state, whatever that comes through him or through her, that is called the mantra. Now here, the mantras, the Vedas, or the Vedic mantras all have the same meaning. Something that is seen. So that's why we say the yogis are the ones who have seen. In English, you can call them as seer. The one who has seen the mantra, not composed. Anything that comes through him. So many a times it has happened that there were disciples around who have taken in the oral tradition, they have collected the mantras that are coming through their guru, and that's how it has been kept. If it is composed by a human being, it is not a mantra. So because of this reason, something that is not composed by any human being, that becomes a mantra. And that's why it is very important to understand this definition. And this is the major reason why mantras or the Vedas become the foundation for all the darshanas, the schools of philosophy in India. So all of them, starting from Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, Vedanta and Purvamimamsa, all the 6 darshanas, they take the mantras as the foundation, the basic authority for conceptualizing their philosophies. So that's why they are called Astika Darshanas, because they consider the existence, asti, asti of astitva of the Vedas, and that's why they are called Astika Darshanas. So this is not just yoga. All these six schools of philosophy, they consider that Vedas are the primary source of knowledge, and even the literal meaning of the word Veda means knowledge. It comes from a vid, jnane. So jnana, knowledge. Veda, the word itself means knowledge. So it's a bunch of knowledge of different things, starting from the evolution of the universe, starting from there to the daily life of a person, to astrology, to astronomy, to live a healthy life, the purpose of life. All of these variety of subjects are discussed in the Vedas. So, because it is called the Veda, one word is Veda. Veda means knowledge. You have some other words also, names, which are very interesting, and you should look at them. So we'll come before that. These are four different names that you can see. One, this is called Nigama. Okay, so just hold on a second. Just Nigama. There is a difference between Agama and Nigama. Nigama means the Vedas. Agama is anything that came from the Vedas. There are many Agamas. Specifically, you will see a lot of Agamas in the Tantra practices. So the traditional root of all the Agamas, that is called Nigama. Nigama is nothing but the Vedas, just in a different name. Another name for the Vedas is called Amnaya. Amnaya is the source of knowledge. So again, Amnaya literally means the source of knowledge, but it is Amnaya is the word used for Vedas. The other two are very interesting. The third one is Trayi. Now, as we look at the classification right now, we will see there are four types of Vedas: Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, and Atharva Veda. The last one, in some way you can actually ignore the last one, because that deals mostly with the materialistic science. So that's why the first three are considered as the most important ones: Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, and Sama Veda. So that becomes three. So the one that is a composition of all the bunch of all the three Vedas, that is called Trayi. So one name for Vedas is Trayi. And the last one, this is called Shruti. So Vedas are also called as Shruti, something that is heard or seen but not composed. So these are Nigama, Amnaya, Trayi, and Shruti. All of these are different names of the Vedas only. Now, for our understanding, the moment we talk about Vedas, it is very difficult to understand the mantras and their structure. For our understanding, we can make a very easy classification of the mantras in the following method. And this is not a classical method. This is my method to tell you to make it very simple. So there can be three types of mantras. The first one is Shanti mantra. The second one is Bija mantra. And the third one, there is no name, so I cannot give my own name. So they are in general mantras. Let's discuss each one in detail. Right in the beginning of our discussion, I was chanting a mantra that is a Shanti mantra. Shanti mantras, generally you know them. A lot of Shanti mantras are very famous. For example, Asatoma Sadgamaya, that is a Shanti mantra. Sahana Vavatu, that is a Shanti mantra. Tachayora Vranimahe, the one I was chanting, that is a Shanti mantra. Bhadran Karne Vishrunuyama Deva, that is a Shanti mantra. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate, that is a Shanti mantra. Shanti mantras are generally maybe 3 lines, 4 lines, sometimes maybe maximum 10 lines. Shanti mantras have a very beautiful meaning. So you will see a meaning that explains the goodness of the universe. Let all the good things to happen to all the people in the world. So that kind of meaning you will see, very nice, beautiful meaning. And most of the Shanti mantras are used in yoga classes. So the beginning of the yoga class or an end of the yoga class, whenever you see a mantra that is chanted, generally it is always a Shanti mantra. So decoding the meaning of Shanti mantra is also very nice. It is very helpful, and that's how Shanti mantra should be looked at, because the meaning, it says Shanti mantra. It is a mantra for peace, mantra for the universal upliftment. So that's why it is called Shanti mantra, the first one. Now the second one is called Bija mantra. Now Bija means seed. Okay, so Bija mantra is a seed mantra. This is like in a capsule form, which means Bija mantras are very small mantras. For example, Om Ganganapataye Namaha, that is a Bija mantra. Om Namah Shivaya is also a Bija mantra. Like this, there are so many Bija mantras. Om is also a Bija mantra. All the Bija mantras that you can also see, some of the Bija mantras are connected to the chakra practices too. Lam, Vam, Ram, all of these are also Bija mantras. In the Hatha Yoga practice of Surya Namaskara, Om Hram Mitraya Namaha, Om Hrim Ravaye Namaha, those are also Bija mantras. Now, the difference here is, Bija mantra is always a one-liner. Okay, that one-line Bija mantra, it is not necessary to have a very specific meaning. It is not even a very good idea to find the meaning of a Bija mantra also, because Bija mantra is a very different sound form. This is supposed to take you beyond the idea of intellectual understanding of the mantras. Shanti mantra, you should know the meaning. The moment it comes to Bija mantra, it is completely purifying the vocal cord. It is helping you in a very specific practice called Nada Yoga, where through the practice of the sound system, you are able to enhance your ability to receive the universal consciousness. So the whole practice of Bija mantra is very different, and it is the Bija mantra that should be initiated. Okay, Bija mantra is not something that you go on internet and you take it. Bija mantra generally should be transmitted from a teacher to a student. So if I have been practicing a particular Bija mantra in the form of japa, in japa, you have 108 beats in the mala, and then you are chanting a particular Bija mantra. Just for an example, if I am chanting Om Ganganapataye Namaha, Om Ganganapataye Namaha, Om Ganganapataye Namaha, I am chanting for 108 times. Imagine I am chanting this morning and evening 108 times every single day for the last 20 years. In that case, that mantra is in me. That can be transmitted from me to a student who is eligible, interested, and wants to take this forward. So in that case, I can give that mantra to that particular student. Now, when you are chanting a Bija mantra, you have methods to chant. The first level of chanting is Maukika, where you are chanting loudly. Okay. So this can go, if you are around the teacher will tell you how long one should practice the first level. The second one is called Upamshu. Let's say, for the sake of easy understanding, you have the mantra Om Ganganapataye Namaha. Then you have been chanting for last 1 year. So when you have the mala, every day, morning and evening, or maybe at least during the sunrise time, you are chanting Om Ganganapataye Namaha, Om Ganganapataye Namaha, Om Ganganapataye Namaha. You are chanting for 108 times every single day, 365 days. Okay. There is no day off like you have in the asana practices. Now, you have practiced for 1 year chanting loudly. Now you shift. Ideally, your teacher will tell you when to shift. For the sake of understanding, now you are shifting to the second level of practice of the same Bija mantra. Now you will chant in the Upamshu level, which means you are chanting now Om Ganganapataye Namaha, Om Ganganapataye Namaha. You are whispering. So this is again the second layer of the practice. Now the third layer will be Manasika Japa, which is you are closing your eyes and you are chanting in the mind. So this is the third level of the practice. Now imagine each one you are doing for at least 1 or 2 years, and the third one probably you will do it forever. After 3, 4, 5 years of your practice, whatever you are doing, the mantra will continuously function inside. This is one of the easiest methods actually to still the thoughts and emotions in the mind and to bring out that yogi from within. So this has to be initiated by a guru, and then you will continue practicing. And whatever that you might say, for the placebo effect, it is good to feel, but there's no mantra that can help you your back pain. There is no mantra that can take you out of your stress. Mantra is not used for this. I mean, if you feel like by chanting this mantra it is helping you to feel more vibrant and not having enough stress in life now, it is good to feel that. But the idea of mantra is always to go inwards. By going inwards, if you're losing, if you're reducing your stress, that's amazing. But that was not really the goal of a japa practice of a mantra. Here, this japa practice, this is a part of one type of meditation, japa. And here you are using only the bija mantras, not really the shanti mantra. Okay. Now, besides this, you also have the third type of mantra, which is just called mantras for the easy understanding. These are the mantras that are really long. For example, Rudra, if you heard of the chanting of Rudra, Chamaka, or Aruna Prashna, for example, this Aruna Prashna, this is a part of a mantra that is so long that it has around 1200 mantras. So one time to chant one time, it will take, you have to have the same rhythm. You can't chant faster, you can't chant slower. So it will take around 1 hour 10 minutes, 1 hour 15 minutes of chanting the entire section. So Shanti mantra takes like a minute or two, whereas this mantra section takes a longer time. Like this one takes 1 hour, something will take half an hour, but that is the big part of the mantra. So you have a Shanti mantra, you have a Bija mantra, and then in general you have the mantras. Okay. Now, the next part is how the classification is. So you have heard of this, I assume, that you have 4 major classifications: Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharva Veda. Okay, so these are 4 classifications for you to get the notes. 4 again: Rig Veda, okay, Yajurveda, Samaveda, and Atharva Veda. Now let's understand briefly, each one will be helpful. First one is Rig Veda. So Rig Veda is a very interesting one. There are scholars, practitioners who say that Rig Veda is actually the most significant one and the most important one. Rig Veda has 10 mandalas, and the beauty of Rig Veda is, one speciality of Rig Veda is, every time when you are chanting the mantras in Rig Veda, you are supposed to chant with 3 major things. One, the Rishi of the Rig Veda. Only in Rig Veda, you know which yogi, which Rishi, or which monk, so to say, has seen that mantra. For example, Gayatri mantra, this is from the Rig Veda, and you will see always referring to Vishwamitra, who has seen that mantra. So every time when you are chanting that a particular section of the mantras, you mention the Rishi. Every mantra has a very specific deity in Rig Veda, which means each mantra has its own deity. For example, there is a Varuna, there is a Vayu, there is Aditya. These are the not really the gods, but the energy centers. Sorry, that is my daughter. So there is a deity. Deity is, do not think it's God. These are, because our religious concepts of God is very different than the when you compare to the concepts of deities, the energy systems that we have in the mantras. Each mantra has a rishi who has seen the mantra. There is a deity, the devata, and then each mantra has its own uh, chandas, the meter. This is only in Rigveda, very special thing. Okay, so Rigveda, the concepts that it deals with, Rigveda is considered to be the purest form. When it comes to Yajurveda, this is an explanation in a way of Rigveda. Rigveda deals with very interesting subjects such as energy systems of the universe, starting evolution of the universe, how creation and destruction can happen. The concepts of creation and destruction is also very interesting. I was saying in the advanced teacher training course last month that the moment we think of creation and destruction, because we were discussing about the mantras, I was saying that generally creation seems like a creation of of something, right? Creation means like that, but in the mantras, specifically in Rigveda, it does not say that there is a creation. There is no creation. There is always a formation from one to other, right? So in one of the places in Rigveda, it says how the universe was created. It's like, the eyes were closed and now it was open, a manifested form. And what is the destruction when you close your eyes? How this comes back to, like, as if there was nothing. In the same way, it comes back to a shape where everything is in unmanifested form. That is the destruction. When it is manifesting, that is the creation. So like this, there are many subjects that are dealt in detail in Rigveda. Yajurveda is more of an elaboration. You will see Rigveda little bit poetic form, whereas Yajurveda, the second one, is more in the prose form. What I studied in our Gurukula during my time was the chanting of mostly bits and pieces of Rigveda, but mostly Yajurveda until Samhita, the Moola practice. Yajurveda is more of a prose format. A lot of Yajurveda mantras have a huge influence in the making of Tantra practices, in the making of Purva Mimamsa Darshana, which are majorly dealing with the rituals. That is our Yajurveda. Okay, so just to come back to what we were discussing, so Rigveda we discussed, Yajurveda. The third one is Samaveda, and this is interesting. This is actually the source for Indian musical system. Indian music, classical music, completely coming from the Samaveda practice. Just to give you an idea how a lot of Rigveda mantras are chanted in the form of song, not in the song that you might be thinking. It has its own form, but it is sung in the Samaveda form. For example, just to give you an idea, there is a small section, I know very little about Samaveda. It is like Bhava Adhaye Bhava Adhaye Bhava Adhaye Nramnaye Nramnam Nramnaye Nramnam Nramnaye Nramnam Nidhay Yovaye Nidhay Yovaye Nidhay Yovaye. The whole method of chanting itself is totally different when you compare with Rigveda and Yajurveda. It is in the singing form. On the surface level, we say that this is how you praise the deities. But if you really go to the source of it, this is how probably you are connecting that frequency of the sound with that deity's frequency sound. It was little more than just praising, but a lot of these, it is difficult to put it into our intellect. That is Samveda in the song format. And the fourth one is Atharva Veda. And if you see the fourth one there, and this is the one that majorly deals with all the physical sciences. So if you see some aspects of architecture, if you see the little bit glimpses of physics, if you see the roots of Vaisheshika and Nyaya Darshanas, and even Ayurveda, for example, there is a huge influence of Atharva Veda into Ayurveda. All the material sciences, they have an influence of Atharva Veda. For this reason only, because it deals with very much of the macro universe outside, Atharva Veda, in a way, it is not really even considered, because It's more external, not really internal. But that would be very interesting to study Atharva Veda in the today's world, because there is so much to learn from Atharva Veda, because everybody likes the scientific temperament today. So that's 4 Vedas. Quickly, the last few points, and then we'll complete. Now, the next part here is how to chant the mantras. The concept, there is something called swara that you will see here. Now, what is a swara? Swara is, if you observe the way we were chanting right now until now, each one has its own method of chanting. Like Rigveda has a different method of chanting. Samaveda has a different method of chanting. Now, for example, if we take Sahana Vavatu, if you see, it is not like Sahana Vavatu, it is not like Sahana Vavatu. There is a very specific method of chanting. So in Rigveda it is different, in Yajurveda it is different. For example, in Yajurveda, it is Sa, the first syllable, has a lower note. Sahana Vavatu. Sa is a lower note. Ha is a middle note. So you can't say Saha. Saha na, that is an upper note. So there is mostly there is a lower note, there is a middle note, and there is an upper note. These notes or the pitches are called as swaras. And it is very important to keep the swara intact, because as we were discussing in the beginning, it is the sound form. The sound has to be produced exactly in that form only, otherwise it becomes any composition of like Gita or like Ramayana or Mahabharata. It is that swara that defines the mantra. So that's why it has to be chanted so many times to get that swara right. So what are these swaras? The swaras are 3 types of swaras. Udatta, the middle pitch, Anudatta, the lower pitch, and Swarita, the higher pitch. So there are 3 types of swaras. Udatta, if you want to take the notes, Udatta, the middle one, Anudatta, I will explain in detail, and Swarita, the higher pitch. Now, Sahana Vavatu. If you see that, Sa is a lower note, that is a Anudatta. Okay. Saha, Ha is a middle note, that is Udatta. And the upper note, Sahana Vava, that Na is a upper note, that is called Swarita. And it also has a double note. In general, you will have a double Swarita. For example, in the same one, Sahana Vavatu, Sahanau Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahai. See, in that Karavavahai, it is all Udatta. Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhi Tamastuma Vidvishavahai. The last part, Ma Vidvishavahai. There is a double Swarita. So sometimes you will have double Swarita also. That's not really very regular, in some places only. Sahana Vavatu is a very popular Shanti mantra. The one that we were, this is very easily used in every practice right in the beginning. So I thought you should look at it. If you see here, you have quite a few Udatta, Anudatta, Swarita with the double Swarita. So just look at this. If you're good with the Sanskrit, the Devanagari script, look up. Otherwise, the English one down there. Okay. Om Ganana Antva Ganapati Gum Havamahe Kavim Kavina Mupamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Ana Shrinvannoti Bhisida Sadanam Om Mahaganapataye Namaha. I was slightly little more emphasizing so that you can get the notes, the Udatta, Anudatta, Swarita properly. Otherwise, you don't have to and there are types how one chants badly. So if you're doing like Ganana Antva, this is not really a very good one. It has to be little calm and smooth. I was just emphasizing to show you that how the swaras function. So it is very important that you chant with the support of the teacher, and generally it is chanted, the traditional method is the teacher chants once and the students will chant the same one twice, and then the teacher will take the next line and again we chant twice. So like this, you take a specific section. Once you complete the entire section, this will take, generally we do it for 10 days, okay, 10 times. That means what we chanted today, we come back tomorrow with the teacher, chant again the same thing. So by 10 times of chanting, we should be able to get the notes right. Then the teacher will take the next part. Okay, now our homework time. So let's say we have 10 to 11 o'clock, we have a chanting class with the teacher. Then probably in the afternoon, we'll have 1 more hour to chant that again every day 10 times, because you are not chanting with the teacher. So you chant every day 10 times for the next 10 days until the teacher gets into the next part. So when the teacher is teaching us the B part, we are actually chanting and preparing again with the A part, the previous one. So there is a lot of chanting. And before we conclude, the final and most important aspect, for example, when I studied, it took 6 years of completely Yajurveda Moola, the major part of it, just the chanting. And I know probably you can say 4 to 6 months of the chanting that I did, that I know the meaning of it. Not necessarily everything has to be known with its meaning. This may look little weird and absurd. What are you saying? You should know the meaning. Why are you chanting then? It is not necessary, to know everything from your intellect. It is very important to start with your intellect, but you should also know at certain point of time, knowing that is also intellect, certain point of time where the intellect has to be dropped and you have to go beyond the intellect. It is not like leaving the intellect, it is going beyond the intellect. So Bija Mantra is actually that form which does not give you the intellectual meaning, but still gives you that ability to get transformed through the practice. So this is the basic understanding of the mantras. Please let me know in the comment box if you want to go a little more into the details. There are 4 major classifications which I did not touch today. That is, all the mantras are classified into Samhitas, Brahmanas, Aranyakas and Upanishads. So if you want to know a little more detail into that, feel free and let me know in the comment box, and we can have another session on this. And also, if you have any other specific subject that is not discussed generally in the teacher training, maybe, or there are some confusions about that particular subject, if I know it, then we can have sessions. So the idea of this live session is always to discuss things, the philosophical aspects, specifically yoga, sankhya, vedanta, darshanas. These 3 I'm quite okay. We can have an introduction to every single darshana, that is also quite fine, but I'm not a very good expert in Purvamimamsa darshana, so to say, to explain you fully into the detail, but the basics are quite still good. So if you have any idea about what are the other subjects that we should discuss, please let me know in the comment box. And we will be doing this every Friday, Indian time 9 o'clock. Every Friday we will take up something like this. So stay tuned and let me know what is the next subject that we should take. So I saw quite a few were staying there from the beginning until the end. Thank you so much. This is like close to 40 minutes. If you have this kind of energy, enthusiasm to study, what else is needed for a teacher? Thank you so much. See you in the next video. Om.